10 years ago, I saw my friends do hypnosis for the first time, and I was stunned at the idea that a single word could cause someone to melt into a puddle on the floor without hesitation. And so I quickly wondered, how did she make him do that with just a single word? And the term that we use for that in hypnosis today is a trigger. But what are they, and how do we make some really powerful ones? In technical terms, a trigger is a response association. And most commonly, it's linked to, or, well, associated with, a posthypnotic suggestion. In other words, it's a little bit like a secret code word that makes your mind know that it's time to do something. But a trigger doesn't have to be a phrase. It can really be anything that we can associate something to. Response expectancy is actually responsible for the initiation of the trigger usually. What that means is that we have set up the preconditions and the expectation that something's going to happen when the trigger word is said. We've done that either through our pretalk or it's been said during the scene. And what happens then is that the initial burst of this suggestion working is caused by the very expectancy on the thing happening, right? So we expect something to happen when we hear the trigger word. So during the pre-talk, it's very good if you can be explicit with what you want to achieve with the trigger. And it's also really, really great to get the buy-in of the person that you're doing hypnosis with. Ask them, how do you want to feel about this? Like, what is your most deeply rooted connection to the thing we're trying to achieve here? And after you've asked someone about how they want to experience something, say they tell you that they think that it's going to feel like a bunch of sand running down their back or whatever, then that's likely what's going to happen. The priming goes both ways. They self-inform by telling you about how they think something's going to go. There are certain safety considerations as well when it comes to triggers, because generally speaking, you don't want to set the expectation that the triggers are always going to work. You generally want to encapsulate them and give them context for when playtime is, basically. And our brains are really, really amazing context machines. And what that means is that it doesn't really matter when you give someone the belief that the trigger is only going to work in certain contexts. So some people will say, just before they give the trigger, they will say, only when I say pineapple and snap my fingers. They will say that before they give the trigger in the session, but it's absolutely fine to give the limitations for a trigger in your pre-talk as well. Like, we have memory, and sometimes even the context that we bring with us will stick with us even better, because things do get a little bit fuzzy in the hypnosis itself, and some of the more logical contextual things that we push into it are welcome there. So you might, as you know, in the pre-talk, you might say something like, yeah, and we're going to set this trigger up, it's only going to happen when it's safe for you to experience it, and only when it's me saying it, so pineapple doesn't become a dangerous word for you. And that's okay to say during the pre-talk. You set the expectations that that's how the trigger is going to work, and that can be enough, really. Now that we've landed here in the kitchen, how about we give some examples of how a trigger is created? Personally, I really, really like the experience route to making a trigger. We want to elicit the behavior in the person through suggestion during a hypnosis scene, if you will. We might then associate that experience with some form of trigger word. So, for example, let's take the example of a sleep trigger or a reinduction trigger. We might do that by inducing a trance and then have them imagine or fixate a little bit extra on what it feels like. Like, what does it feel like in this space? What did a theory just do to me? Make them question these things a little bit. And then we can say something like, well, and now that you've experienced this, you could come back here at any time when I say the word sleep and snap my fingers, just like we discussed in our pre-talk. Something very simple like that can be a very, very effective way to make a trigger. Another thing you could do is do an induction and where you see that you have the person feeling very, very, on the edge of needing a conversion moment, when they drop. It's obviously, I am a proponent of many different styles of hypnosis, but sometimes it's fun to do the drop, And what you can do then is you can simply set up all the dominoes exactly so that it's about to be the moment where you would say that. Dream now or sleep deep, something like that. And obviously, when you get a very, very direct command like that, it can allow you to form an association with those words. And especially if paired with a really nice snap, like dream deep, snap. It's a very, very simple thing to do this. And you can do it either after it's happened or when it's about to happen so that they get the associative experience immediately. In the same vein of creating a trigger from experience, it can also be really, really good to show the subject how to act sometimes. In this example, we might be setting up a freeze trigger or a lock trigger, if you will. So what you can do is, if you're in person, obviously you can grab the subject's hand, or if you're in VR, you might have them open their eyes if they're closed and have them repeat what you're doing or guide their hand. So for example, you might do an example then. So you might take their hand and you might put it onto their heads, like so. And after saying that, and now you feel how your hand is on top of your head. Wherever I move your hands, and then you can move the hand, I can lock your hand in place when I say freeze. Do you understand? And the subject will usually nod and confirm. This is a very, very, very much like a learning approach to the thing. You giving an example, it's very direct, it's very simple, but really, truly moving and doing the exercise with them is truly illustrative. It's a very, very good way of anchoring this learning. Anchoring triggers through experience in many of these ways is preferable, in my opinion, because if you just say what someone's supposed to do without necessarily showing them or putting them into the emotional state where they will truly feel it, it's going to be a little bit abstract to kind of start to create that. Then we're only solely relying on the response expectancy initially, instead of working with existing taught associations that you as the hypnotist have taught them. If we wanted to make a trigger, which is to make someone feel really, really good when they're called a good girl, for example, we might first excite them and make them really, really happy. You can give them a compliment. You can say, you are such a good subject. You feel all of the things and you are so interactive. And I love the warmth that you give off. Truly be genuine here. Like, don't fake this because it's not going to work. Be genuine to them. Allow them to feel that. You can say, perhaps you're feeling the giddy tingles that are running through your body as I'm telling you these little compliments. These are the things that I want you to focus on. Focus on those giddy little wonderful tingles and let them truly be part of your physical body. Because that is exactly what I like for you to feel when I call you a good girl. Do you understand? That is how we might do a trigger like that. We are eliciting a response. We're showing them that they can feel it in our hypnosis scene. And then we're attaching some kind of remembering thing, an anchor, a way back, a bookmark, if you will. When it comes to triggers, really, the sky is the limit. Anything you can do in a hypnosis session that you can turn into a little module or a taught behavior, you can truly attach to this experience. And see how in all of our examples, we've also created post-hypnotic suggestions. These are things that are not necessarily only going to happen in a scene or in hypnosis. They can happen at any moment. We have taught them and we have created these associations to be used, like the little bookmarks we mentioned. Other great examples could be like a little tingle trigger if you want to make someone all tingly and feel good. Maybe a giggle trigger or something even more explicit, like only being able to say the word woof or meow. I don't know why you would want that, but some people really do enjoy that. Or perhaps a trigger to make someone have the urge to do something. or even a trigger to have someone experience an itch showing up somewhere in their body that can only be resolved by the hypnotist. You can do anything with this, and truly the sky is the limit. Have so much fun with it.